We did it! We made it through Nano! Yes! Hello lovely, my name's Zoe, my brain's a dragon, and this is the week 4 check-in, which actually means we've made it to the end of Nano, although technically there's a couple of days to spare, but I've hit 50,000 words, and the story is done. I am absolutely thrilled, and I am so glad to be able to tell you how it went, because week 3 was its usual self, and then it kind of bled into week 4, and then, you know what, let's get into it. We know that week 3 leading into week 4 is always a bit of a tricky period, but the thing with this one is that I found that even though I had learned some things, like that I was not going to be putting in every scene from my outline, otherwise we would end up with far too many words and not enough done in the month, I still found that writing was a little bit more emotionally draining than I had expected. This, totally fine. Kind of knew it was coming. It usually does. Week 4 is often a little bit like that, particularly if I've stopped the momentum, which is what I'd done. So, we did do our, if we open up our sprints pages and no one's running on, get in that, and that was really helpful. I did all of my words in sprints this week, and I also made sure that I did do the Catherine Devaney stuff where I made sure that I had something to make myself more comfortable between my sprints. Sometimes it literally just meant getting up and making a fresh cup of tea because I had forgotten to drink the cup of tea that I had made beforehand. It's how you know it's one of those weeks. And sometimes it was putting on a jumper or taking off a jumper or putting a jumper back on again, or it's spring, it's Melbourne, there is no consistency with the weather, temperature control is a myth, it's fine. And I also made sure that I was really gentle on myself. I didn't expect myself to put in all of the detail and all of the angst this week. I suddenly realized that the reason that I have a lot of trouble with those scenes in the first version of the story is because they're really emotionally heavy. So, since I'm gonna have to go back and edit it anyway, particularly because I'm going to be adding somewhere in the vicinity of 30,000 words, why not just put the basic building blocks in, or just block it, add in all the angst later, and then editing me has to deal with it, and I don't! And that was my best plan for the whole week. In fact, it worked so well that I managed to get all of my words done in about 4 days, which for me, okay, I was hoping to try and get through a little bit sooner than that, but then I remembered that I had an epilogue, so I had this whole extra chapter to write, so having that done in the 4 days was actually really lovely. How did we go for word count? On day 1, we got 3,521 words. Day 2 was 5,008 words, which definitely meant ice cream because delicious, and also consistency. Day 3 was getting us over the 50,000 word mark, and that was 2,694 words. And then I suddenly realized, oh my goodness, I have an epilogue and I need to finish off the thing, and how is everyone gonna know that they're gonna end up together, like properly together, if I don't make sure that it's gonna be okay? So I wrote another 1,050 words to get in the base sketch of the epilogue, because then I got to ask myself some really interesting questions, like when does the epilogue happen? If there was a second book in the series, when would that take place? If there is a second book in the series, when am I thinking of writing it? And then I got distracted and wandered off, but it was fine because I had got to the end, and that was the entire point of the month. I mean, mostly the point was to get 50,000 words in the month, which we did, but finishing the main arc of the story, also super important. So, what have I learned, and how am I going to apply that to my next crazy nano project? I have learned the key thing with a 50,000 word novel is brevity. And if I am not going to do scene sketches, and I am not going to try and make this the most tight and nuanced piece that I can in the very first pass, it's totally okay to skip joining scenes. Most of the time, they're going to be scenes that give emotional depth or add more information for the subplots. And you know what? If we're just blocking in the main beats because we're going to have something in the vicinity of nearly half again the novel that we've got, it's fine. There is no right or wrong way to do Nano, which is kind of one of the reasons I love it so much. If that's what I have to do because that suits my process, that's what I have to do because that suits my process. If I cannot carry the amount of angst required to make the second half of Act 2 actually emotionally devastating, that's fine. We can spread it over multiple drafts and it'll be completely okay. In fact, it's probably not a bad idea to do that so that then I actually can practice going back into things because I will know what I'm looking for. I am looking for how how to make this more angsty and set up some mirror scenes and make the whole thing just that much more put together and deliberate, because narratives are a stylistic representation of story and they should sound nothing like real life. In fact, if your dialogue or your narrative sounds like real life and you're writing a fiction novel, might be time to have a question about what the real life is, because most of the time narratives make a lot more sense than the day-to-day existence of, well, most if not any person. I am also going to take a little bit of a break because I do have a couple of days up my sleeve, thank goodness, before December starts and I have to actually think about what we're going to do next. There are a whole lot of options, and I think part of what I'm going to be doing over the next few days is looking at what sort of fiction I want to be writing next. I have decided that writing fiction is actually incredibly good for my mental health, even if all I do is actually get it done and then share it with, a couple of friends and the internet, because it means that I am engaging in something and my brain is sticking with me. And that's always really, really good. The more engaged Brain Dragon is, the less I get feedback about things that aren't really that important. Like, yes, brain, I promise we're still breathing. You don't have to tell me it hurts every time. I got that. We're fine. So that means I am going to gently see what I can do in December to try and figure out which of the processes and patterns that we've tested this month I can actually apply on an everyday basis. Nano is an out of the ordinary scenario, and I'm not really sure that I want to make writing 50,000 words in a month my usual day-to-day existence. Something about that, while intriguing, also has a lot of spoons associated with it, and I am very much for not spending all the spoons in advance and seeing what you have on the day. So, with our novel at 52,000 words, the epilogue done, and Nano pretty much over, I am finally able to get the reward that I have actually been waiting for this whole time. It's literally a new hobby. I know. I just did a huge giant project on one hobby and I used it to get myself a reward for another hobby that I've not started yet. But how pretty! So I am very excited to start this and have a look at it and open it up and see what kind of things I can do. Now, they're never going to look like on the box for about 70,000 reasons, and that's fine. But I'm really looking forward to actually taking a break, maybe listening to some craft books or even just listening to some fiction and keeping my hands busy with something that's not words. I am fully expecting to fall in a screaming heap, like blankets, more tea, just like it's gonna be a mess. But today I am so excited because it's done and we did it and we got there and the end is even on the page, and like, I'm not even kidding. So I got to 51,998 words at the end of the epilogue and I'm like, if I just write the end, it's 52,000 words. And I thought that was fabulous. Now, my Nano word count is a bit different to that, but there's no verification thing at the moment, so like you can't copy and paste the document in, so I can't test it and make sure that, we've got an official word count. So I'm running with my 52,000 because it's nice, round number, makes sense, makes me happy. But it's done. I am going to leave that story sit for a little bit in terms of actually working on it. I might go through and actually do the World Bible while it's still fresh in my head so that I can remember the scenes that I didn't put in because I ran out of words. And I will also make some notes about how big the scenes were so I know what kind of length when I'm looking at my scene outlines that I will be looking at in terms of if I've got 20 scenes, what does that mean in terms of length? If I have 50 scenes, are we looking at something that's ridiculously long? Where are we going with this? How do we look at guesstimating word count in future so that future me has a much better chance of actually getting something to stick vaguely to word count and to have some pacing that's already built in. I hope that the end of Nano is going well for you, and that if you haven't quite made it, but you think you can, you just do that little bit more and see how far you can get. It's not about finishing. It's about seeing what you can do when you make small, deliberate decisions and test yourself. Because the only way you're going to know if something you believe about yourself is true is if you look at it, break it apart a little bit, and see if you can test it. You might find that you can actually do a lot more than you think you can. And you might find that the way that you think you're doing things is not the most effective way for you. But once you test it, you might be able to find something that works better, like I did. I am going to go drink some tea, listen to some stories while making some paper flowers, and I will tell you all about the adventures that I have in store next time. Great to see you, lovely. Bye.